Good evening and welcome to Uptown Bills. Thank you. I'm Tom Gilsonen, the manager of Uptown Bills. It's Thursday night, and as usual, we have our Thursday night live program. And tonight we have something very special. But first, for those of you who don't know anything about us, a word about Bill, for whom we're named. Bill is the man with the beard in the picture behind me. Bill came to Iowa City after spending almost 50 years in a big state hospital in Minnesota. A long time ago, many people with disabilities were put into state hospitals. Bill was there for almost 50 years, got out in the 1960s, attitudes were changing, and ended up coming to Iowa City with the man on the right with the tie, Barry Morrow. And Bill ended up managing a little coffee shop in North Hall on the university campus. It's still there, and we're the crosstown cousin, like the bigger, badder Bills. And we are celebrating our 15th anniversary on Labor Day weekend. So, thank you. And I think that's probably enough about us for now. Besides the Thursday night, we have live music every Saturday, and we have a used bookstore and a number of other projects, including, as you can see from the banner, we're working on a new local radio station, which we hope will be on the air by the end of the year. KICI. All right, let me introduce Andrea Wilson, who is going to be your host for tonight's program.
So if I take this off for a minute. Welcome, everyone, to this special evening of spoken word. I'm your host, Andrea Wilson, and I'm also the founding director of the Iowa Writers House. Our mission with the Iowa Writers House is to extend the Iowa literary legacy and to strengthen the community upon writers, editors, artists of all kinds, and especially all those who honor the power of words. I founded this organization with the hope of building bridges between talented writers who move to Iowa City and live in this state and this city of literature, and the amazing literary programs in our colleges and university. Tonight we're going to experience some of this literary magic. In preparation for this event, we put out a call to writers. Under the guise of one Iowa, many races, we felt like in times like these, with political, racial, and cultural divides hitting a fever pitch, and the future often seeming not in our control, we believe that what we can affect in a state of grace is here in our community. It starts with neighbors, with friends, with work colleagues. It starts with the hearts that we pass on the street, people who share our schools, our sidewalks, and our stores. Not those on TV or the things we read on the internet, but those who are already walking beside us. We have 12 writers tonight who have volunteered to share their words with us. Each of them bring their own personal perspectives and experiences. Their words are beautiful, but not all of them are warm and fuzzy. They are beautiful in their truth, as is your being here, because you're allowing yourself to witness others' truth and letting those words be part of your own human experience and your own consciousness. Thank you in advance for respecting their words, for choosing to join us tonight, and for being part of a more united tomorrow. Our first reader tonight is Dan Campione. He's the author of Peter DeVries and Surrealism, co-editor of Walt Whitman, The Measure of His Song, and contributor of poetry to many magazines, including Able Muse, Light, Measure, and the Midwest Quarterly. 6 of his poems have been featured in Poetry in the Public, sponsored by the Iowa City Public Art Program. A native of Chicago with degrees from the University of Chicago, the University of Illinois at Chicago, and the University of Iowa, his PhD, he works as a writer and an editor in Iowa City, Iowa.
Thank you, Andrea. And I'd like to start by offering my thanks to Uptown Bills, and thanks to the Iowa Writers House and Andrea and the other organizers of this event. And before I read my short poem, I just want to say how much at home I feel here. When my wife Joanne and I moved to Iowa City in 1978, we lived for 7 years just 2 blocks from here on Prentice Street, and I recognize the train whistles very well. It's a lovely place. That house and garden figure in the poem. The title of the poem is Cultivation, and that's an allusion to Voltaire's Candide. And Candide, as you know, is the hero who, after many adventures and misadventures, decides that the essential philosophy is we must cultivate our garden. I have an epigraph. A single human female who existed in Africa about 200,000 years ago is the common mother of our species. That's a quotation from The Gene by Dr. Siddhartha Mukherjee. And this is the poem that I'd like to share with you. We all are here by way of Africa. Each cell our bodies hold remembers well the broad savannas, rivers, rolling hills that molded us from hungers great as ours. I cut my hand while stringing chicken wire to hold up garden peas on Prentice Street some years ago. Stray drops of blood dripped down and mixed with dirt. Those sugar snaps came green as cashew leaves and sweet as apple pie. And when the sleeping fireflies emerged, each night of that July, they starred the sky with Milky Way as seen from Olduvai. No case of heat stroke here. Candide was right. Vines turn toward Eden, catching morning light. Thank you for letting me share that with you.
Our next reader is Donnie Walton. Donnie is a first-year student in fiction at the Iowa Writers Workshop. Previously, she was an editor at Time Inc., working for brands including Entertainment Weekly, Life, and Essence, and in 2015 was a fellow at the McDonald Colony. She moved to Iowa City last Monday, and the Mormons have already visited.
They have, and they're very, very, very nice. So sorry, do you have the master?
You betcha.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I did move last Monday. I don't have a printer, which is why I'm scrounging for my own copy here. Thanks to the Iowa Writers House for being so welcoming. This is an incredible feeling to have been here such a short time and being welcomed into a space like this. It's really beautiful. When I heard about the theme of tonight, it just so happened that I was working on an essay for another publication along the themes of race and inclusion. And so what I decided to do is just excerpt that and share a little bit of that as a kind of sneak preview. So first here in Iowa City. Sometimes, staring down these blank pages in my black skin, I've struggled to free my mind. Because not only is my inner critic hovering from the first word, but so is an entire audience. Obviously, the most important people in that audience are the ones I'm writing for and about. They are my mother and father and all the ancestral branches above, the friends who've become siblings beyond blood, the lovers with whom I found harbor, the children I used to dream of having. Mostly, I worry about disappointing them. I might say too much, I might not say enough, but I know that in their eyes, I cannot be reduced. When we're together, we stoke a million stories. Our space is safe, sacred, and we spread out in it comfortably. Girl, you ain't company, my folks down home will say when I ask them not to look at my mess. You're family. But I'm susceptible to occasional tingles of ambition. Realistic or not, I do mull the what-ifs of my work accelerating viral, and in those moments, I imagine that the audience will fill in with people my family would consider company. To be clear, I'm not talking about those who are too lazy, elitist, or racist to make my acquaintance. They don't get any sweet tea. I'm talking about the curious and polite visitors who have dropped by to pay respects. I'm talking, maybe, about you, the people who bring open spirits and good intentions, but possibly no idea of how to navigate Black spaces. And if they have no idea, then I worry that they will gaze at these things I've built with an expectation of learning something. The fear of being misinterpreted or reinforcing tired stereotypes deeply affects me. It's like Dave Chappelle explained when he walked away from his $50 million gig. I want to make sure I'm dancing and not shuffling. Dancing for me means achieving nuance through precision so that none of my characters could ever be mistaken for avatars. So that yes, Jilly might be a Black country girl who loves eating watermelon in the summertime, as all of my relatives in North Florida do, but she sprinkles it with salt, and she has obsessive compulsive tendencies that means she'll only eat it if it's propped in her grandma's metal pie tin, so that the juice gets caught when it runs out, and so that on either side of the triangular wedge of fruit, the flesh of which she shaves with a butter knife, she can separate the black seeds from the white ones. As I develop as a writer, I choose to see the upsides of such paranoia. I'm challenged to be rigorous, detailed, accurate, unexpected, so that not only the work, but the act of making it becomes a tribute to my ancestors, that most dear audience who's shown me the art of extracting sweetness from struggle. Thank you.
If there's a seat open near you, could you hold up your hand? Okay, we've got, and I think it's this one. Okay, one over here, two over here. All right, and one over here. Okay. You don't have to sit. If you'd like to stand, you're welcome, but if not, we've got some spots. Ooh, hey, that's nice. All right, on with the program.
Bonnie Larson Stager lives on the plains in North Dakota, and because she couldn't be with us here today, Alex Penland will be reading her poem.
There we go, I got it. All right, hi, I'm Alex Penland, and I'll be reading for Bonnie. Destiny Manifested starts out with a quote. Years after his failed attempt to take control of a tiny Leith, North Dakota, and turn it into a haven for white supremacists and racists, Craig Cobb, convicted of terrorizing, is still buying up properties and land across the Midwest, Kansas, Nebraska, and Missouri. Destiny Manifested. 2 centuries ago, white people came to lay claim for Jefferson. His vision, illusion, to make the plains great, to colonize, capitalize, politicize, and nationalize. Now you come to lay an Aryan claim on the Great Plains, to sanitize, blacklist Black people, ridicule, remove red people, berate Brown versus the Board of Education. But you're too late. It's already been done.
Eliza David is the author of 5-star rated 6-book Cougarette series. Born and raised on Chicago's South Side, she currently resides in Iowa City. When she's not writing, working full-time, or raising children with her loving husband, she enjoys reading, fitness, and the occasional bit of celebrity gossip. She's also the leader of our Scarlet Room for romance writers interested here in Iowa City. Thank you, Eliza.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming out tonight. I want to also thank Iowa Writers House and Uptown Bills for hosting this event. What I'm about to read is an abridged version of an essay that I wrote after the murders of Alton Sterling and Philando Castile, and it's called It's Too Early. It was originally published on goodmenproject.com, which is one of many blogs I write for, but here's an abridged version. I hope you like it. I was working from home the day Alton Sterling's murder video went viral. The link met my site, urging me to play it. I just couldn't. It wasn't even noon. Yet. That's what I told myself. It's too early. My husband and I discussed all the factors: white privilege, possible community responses. I got in bed to check my social media pages a final time that evening. Then there was his name in my feed, Philando Castillo. I think another man has been shot by a cop. Are you sure? Can't be. Gotta be the same guy, he said. I clicked the link immediately this time, and the video played. His body slumped, his girlfriend speaking into the camera, a gun pointed at both of them. No, this is someone else, I said, my voice small. It hasn't even been 24 hours. It's too early. I'm going to talk to our son about it. Do you think that's a good idea? I asked the following day. Our son is 9 and has never asked any questions about what's been pumping through our television screen for over the past 36 hours. Still, I felt that something needed to be said to give him some context. I walked into our room and turned him around in the swivel chair. Is there anything you want to ask about with the news? He paused. Were those men that got shot doing something bad? I don't think they were, I said. Then why did the police shoot them? I cleared my throat. I don't know. I think that it's just like at school. The teacher calls all of your classmates friends, right? He nodded. Well, you know that there are some good friends in your class that you play with every day, and then there are the not so good ones that might bully other students or backtalk the teacher. He nodded again. Well, police are the same way. You have good cops and you have bad ones. I think that these men were shot by bad ones. Okay, I understand, he said with a nod. It ended abruptly, but the talk comes in stages. 5 years from now, the conversation will be more granular. We'll discuss how to follow protocol, what to do if his body is touched, who he needs to call if he's ever apprehended. But for now, it's too early. Thank you.
Lataya Murphy is a creative mom who lives in Iowa City, Iowa, and today she's here to share things from her heart to the page.
Hello, everyone. I've been in Iowa City for about a year, and I moved from Chicago. I would like to thank the Dream Center and the whole family for giving me the opportunity and embracing me while I'm living here. I have a piece, and I wrote it around 1 a.m. No title, but I guess I'll just come off the brain. Listen. Are we the only ones who hear cries growing increasingly louder? Time has gotten shorter. Murders televised with pride. The brave choose to hide. Wouldn't want to be labeled as a martyr, then buried alive. As we call to the heavens to spread the spirit of peace, it just doesn't seem like enough. Enough is when you are forced to witness those who have sworn to protect the people, kill children, mothers, fathers before your eyes, only to be rewarded keeping their jobs along with ear-to-ear smiles. Enough is that proud moment you've succeeded at the completion of college to obtain the job you've dreamt about, only to be denied. The reason? Your birth-given name sounds too urban. I don't mean to sound aggressive, although I fit the description for such a title, right? We too have dreams. We too are ambitious and intelligent. You don't have to believe it. Just keep a reminder. We are aware you definitely see it. A simple solution to end this racial madness is an understatement. What we need is unity and to understand that melanin is beauty. Descendants from ancient kings before slavery were ever to define us. The conclusion is plain as day. We must become a whole to banish this negative energy away. Kind, humble, and compassionate you too can be. We will never live in peace if your hearts are not able to receive. Bottom line is, to be willing to end hate will be removing the weed from the root. The hardest thing people will have to meet is swallowing that pill called truth. Thank you.
Lataya, you did 1 a.m. proud. Our next reader is Sarah Ayala Masangu, and she's going to be reading a piece called Stop Shooting Us.
Hello. Well, I'm a little bit sick today, but I think everything will be all right. Hopefully I don't sneeze. These are little snippets from my upcoming book called The Documented Moments of My Social Downfall. And here it goes. Hello, my black and white brothers and sisters. I came here to live the so-called American dream, escaping a civil war in the DRC in 2000. And then 9/11 happened, 3 months in. Now I'm left with a serious question, and if you still remember this question, please tell me the answer. I am wondering, can I sue the US government for my mental health issues? First, it was traumatizing a 5-year-old with videos on replay of the 9/11 attacks for months. Now it's traumatizing a 21-year-old with videos of people that were once enslaved from our homeland being murdered out in the streets. America, you have psychologically hardwired my brain to fear the people that are meant to protect me. So I had to look within myself and come to a conclusion that discrimination is still flourishing in this country. Let me remind you of your history. The Civil Rights Movement eliminated the white-only signs that were plastered all over town. Our leaders who brought us freedom that disobeyed the laws of the land were gunned down. The ones that obeyed were shortly executed after their jobs were done. And to be able to reach you, the government whispered things into Martin Luther King Jr.'s ears. And once he stopped listening, he got assassinated. The same system hates anything associated with Black Lives Matter, when in fact, this movement is about speaking out against the mistreatment that has been happening for decades in this country to Black people. This movement is not about some of you, but it does include you. This is about uniting both generations to show the little Black girls and boys that when they get older, they won't be gunned down like animals. See, we are at the setting point of Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream, but All Lives Matter is still sleeping. They've locked themselves in their homes and have stayed in their memory-foamed mattresses. They have set their alarms on their iPhones to wake them up, but when it rings, they tap the screen and say 10 more minutes. We must wake them up, make them aware that while they are lying in bed, our history is dying. Our history is being locked behind jailhouse cells, being killed by the people that are meant to be watching over them. Our history has laid dead with bullets on the street. Our history was shot dead while walking home with a hoodie and Skittles on his hand. Our present cannot breathe, and our future will have asthma if we don't do anything to stop it. The soil beneath the corn and cotton fields have African blood running through them like water. We must get up and stand up, and if the media decides to not cover what we see, then we must place our sorrow and grief somewhere else in front of them so they can witness it. Thank you.
I want to take a moment and read Sarah's bio because I missed it before and I love it. It says, after turning 21, Sarah has finally decided to let her voice be heard. She has risen up and written every emotion she has ever felt onto blank pages. She hopes that you listen and think before you speak. Thank you, Sarah. That was amazing. Our next reader, Sarah McGurk, holds her MFA in poetry from the Iowa Writers Workshop. Currently, she acts as the Iowa Youth Writing Project Fellow at the University of Iowa, teaching requisite courses. Sarah also holds her BA in English from the University of Notre Dame, where she received many awards. Sarah, we're excited of hearing what you have to share.
Hello. Thank you guys so much all for being here and for hearing everybody out. So I don't know how many of you might have visited the Center for Afrofuturist Studies. It's new this year, it just popped up last year. We had a recent visitor, or an artist in residence, Louis Chuede Soki, and he has an essay that he read to us in Prairie Lights about what he calls the beginning of American pop culture, and I agree with him. It's P.T. Barnum's exploitation of Joyce Heth, and I think at this point in time, if we're looking at the modern media circus and talking so much about all these things that are going viral and what it is we're seeing beyond a screen, I think we have to agree with Gil Scott-Heron when he says the revolution will not be televised. What it is that we're seeing isn't what people are living. And I think we have to understand that from behind certain walls, but also view it. So this is just a response to Louis. Small scale skullscape, after Louis Chuede Soki. Let's craft another master and embody its bones, ossify into cyborg gods. Let's unbox each other, motion sick. The mental breakdown will not be televised, not on any device you've ever emptied into, a tether seeking only itself in disconnect. Spider typing faint as footfalls, webby-handed rhetoric caught red-faced, upping the ratchet's umpth degree. Isn't urgency always in transit? And what is sensory if the whole is deranged? A soma comatose? Up the dosage, the code, a necklace of tongues, rattles. I want you, like the death of me, to tuck the death of me in sheets of ice in a vat abandoned. Love in a shit-eating grin is how I take both whole skeletons debunked from under our figurines. Let's devise a consciousness of our own carpentry. In a void dance, each step is a chess move, a Cheshire catastrophic set of theorems in a zero Halliburton briefcase. It will be brief, we assure you. Step right up, each tongue's tall tale is a truth, and once told, it will be remembered as we render. We thank you, mental rendition, for your deviance.
L.T. the City was born in Chicago and raised in Iowa. He's been writing poetry for 8 years, also in musical format, and is working on a poetry book called The Bird That Flies with Time.
Hey everybody, my name is LT the City, and I just hope my words paint a picture for you to see the unseen and dream the undreamed. And this piece I'm about to do for you is called To Kill a Dream. I trade $1 in a dream for a rhyme, yo. It's crazy how we all slaves in the mind, though. I see the tears on the bench, hey, what you crying for? She handed me the paper saying that we died so young. A 9-year-old ended by the gun. An unsung king meets heaven by the sun. Born in the jungle like a flower in the sun, but he never got to bloom cause the weeds made him slump. I tap into my mind as a kid and how I got the dream that my life would be rich. Thought of how I got to grow. Thought of how I got to fish. Thought of how I got to love. Thought of how I got to kiss. But as I put the paper down, my heart was in pain and my world hit the ground. Even the blind could have seen. They trying to kill a black man's dream. Thank you.
Patricia Bieber has been writing and sharing poetry since she was in 3rd grade and learned that a teacher would rather allow her to read a 1-page poem than a 48-page novel. A former teacher, Miss Bieber now spends her time honing her own writing skills in between gardening, walking the dog, and taking pictures of flowers. She finds forms such as the villanelle inspire her by giving her structure to a poem when this topic is unknown. She writes under the name Genesee Oak. Jaceni Oak.
Jacene. And this is a topic way out of my comfort zone. Usually my poems are nature-based, flowers, butterflies, puppies. So when I got this call to write something on race, I thought, what do I know about race? When I have difficulty writing something, if I can come up with one phrase, I'll often write a poem in the form called the Villanelle. And that is what I have for you tonight. Struggling to comprehend. What do I know of your days? I, born of Caucasian race, can I understand your ways? My ancestry's a muddled maze. I was born right near this place. What do I know of your days? Studying books and plays, I find no wisdom to embrace. Can I understand your ways? When your life is set ablaze, seen, not seen on your face, what do I know of your days? I'm not a one who prays or seeks a perfect grace. Can I understand your ways? I need a perfect phrase that our lives may interlace. What do I know of your days? Can I understand your ways? Thank you.
Frederick O'Neill Cherry Jr. cannot be here tonight, but I want to read his bio because he's a very special student who studied with us at the Iowa Writers House. Fred is a sophomore at the University of Iowa studying English and dance. He's the co-founder of Dynamics Entertainment, a YouTube channel that creates a platform for young artists. Frederick stands behind the idea that Toni Morrison that artists should create dangerously, using their art to impact others. He plans on dedicating his life to this through the passion of writing, singing, dancing, and performing. Tonight, and we thank him very much, Simeon Talley is going to read Frederick's work. Simeon is a dear friend of mine and also the founder of the Iowa Fashion Project.
Thank you. Thank you. I would try to do Fred's words justice. The path required. I am a man. The scales of life are skewed, twisted forever in my favor. I don't deny it. I acknowledge the cards I have been dealt. Ignoring to do so would be a travesty. But another layer lies beneath, complicating things further, tucked neatly behind the first, yet forever visible to most. I am a black man. The scales have shifted yet again, only this time against me, in a way that is often quite difficult to understand. Some may ask why. The answer is quite simple. The system has been founded upon various forms of oppressions and injustice, some outright, others floating through the air, invisible, odorless, deadly, yet constantly present. My people have forever been held back, tightly chained at the back of the line, force-fed half-truths and outright lies that make it seem like things have shifted for the better. To make it seem like the chains that hold me are voluntary, a figment of my imagination, a constant flaw in my mental process, making others believe that I, in fact, hold the key. Society believes that these chains are gone, broken in the new age of colorblindness, when in fact the chains that have tightly bound me have only been reshaped to fit the complicated times, remolding around my neck so tightly that only those who wear it know that it's here, it's there. The shackles at my feet linking me to my colored neighbors, aligning us under the same banner of oppression. Our plights are similar. The battle is not yet won. There seems to be no end in sight, but yet there is hope. If you open your eyes to see past the veil of ignorance, to the reality we have lived for years, you will begin to see our plight differently, our never-ending battles with the system, and realize that your voice matters. You may never fully understand our struggle or face the same injustices as we do. Your blood may never be spilt, caught on video, your name neatly positioned behind a hashtag. You may never be able to fully step into our soulless shoes, worn down, hoping that one day you can finally retire them. But if you speak up on our behalf, your contribution does not go unnoticed. Your hand may not resemble mine, but an acknowledgement of our differences. The way the scale tilts matters. Only then can we ever hope to live in peace and harmony.
Sally Ostergaard writes nonfiction poetry because she knows only symbolism can honestly express my reality. She practices holistic healing, including holy fire Reiki, modern shamanism, spiritual counseling, and is a reader of tarot. A star cannot shine without darkness is in this moment her favorite quote.
Hey everybody, I'm so happy to be here. If I had a religion, it would be love. When my new friend Sylvia invited me to her church, I said, she's the pastor, I said, it's at Gospel Explosion Ministry. This was months ago. I said, are there any white people there? And she said, there's a few of you. And I dedicate this poem to them, to my friends at GEM, because it was a place of healing for me, a place where we could laugh together and cry together and dance and sing and heal. And I believe that we are all the beloved, that we are all the one, and that Christ to me is a cool dude, and he transcends any religion, just like Buddha, Kuan Yin, all of it. And I truly believe that we're the one. Love knows nothing, not gender, not sexual orientation. It doesn't know age, and it certainly doesn't know race. And this is called the gift of the Staros. And at the time, I didn't understand that Staros meant steak. It's a Greek word that means steak. And I wanted to honor Sylvia because she taught that morning. It was Resurrection Sunday, and she said, we weren't going to waste 2 pieces of wood to murder a man. We're just going to waste one. And so she was teaching the Staros instead of the cross. I think both images are very beautiful, but this is called the gift of the Staros to honor her. So as I said, dedicated with love and gratitude to all my friends at the Gospel Explosion Ministry. I could not comprehend. You were unimaginable to me. I turned my back to the sun, and yet all I ever wanted was more of you. Lost for an eternity, I was the one searching empty tombs, and I was the one who was hung. Beneath the weight of the wood, my pockets full of nails, you revealed yourself again and again. Yet time after time, I chose to be blind. Though I could feel the heat rising from your outstretched wings as you recovered slain warriors with magnificent ease. Try me and see, you said, as you poured out a blessing. My love, it will overwhelm you. And I was taken to my knees, for there was not room enough to receive it all. And though I lay sleeping, and despite my amnesia, you got yourself up so that I would not have to be down. Then you waited and you waited for me to awake. There is a translation now, a decoding. I can perceive something today that had been obscured in every other moment because I am you, and you are me. Look, the frost has turned to dew, and it sparkles in the dawn. It was always you. Even in my darkest hour, I was not alone. Golden purifier, auric vision, grasp me in your gentle talons so that I may fly higher still. Crucify my flesh so that I may know you more deeply. And I too will wear my scars with grace and honor until we can walk that road back home, until we can know true perfection again. Because now I see the reason to wait, to give up the ghost. Beloved, you are my destiny. Let me shine your light, for without you, I do not exist. Thank you.
I want to take a moment and thank one of our partners here today. Obviously Uptown Bills and the Iowa Writers House, but our third partner is the Dream Center. And the Dream Center is an incredible organization in town that we've had the opportunity to work with multiple times, who's helped us find some of our most amazing scholarship students, and who I just hold in a dear place in my heart. So with that sort of slight introduction, I'd like to ask Frederick Newell to come up and read a piece that he specifically put together just for this event, a reading that he's going to do a little bit about his experience.
So I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. I'm not going to read the whole piece because it's too long compared to what other people read, I can read it.
Read it.
Read it. All right. All right, I'll go for it. It's called Behind This Shirt and Tie. I normally wear a tie every day, but it is too hot outside to wear it today. But you would understand as I read this why I will wear a shirt and tie everywhere I go. And it's more because when I first moved here, I would rather dress like LT the City. But because I've had so many racial things happen in Iowa City, by wearing this, it has changed how people see me. So I'll just read my piece. So behind this shirt and tie, moving to Iowa City from Chicago, Illinois was the hardest transition I ever had to make in my life. Every morning I would ask myself the question, why am I still here in Iowa City? So I began to pray and ask God to show me my purpose because I didn't feel as if I belonged here. I learned about racism and discrimination while I was in high school, but I never had to experience that because I grew up in the community of 99% African American. But I can recall the first time moving to Iowa City that I had to really face what racial discrimination felt like. I began to build relationships with lots of different people in the community, but I always felt the void because I didn't feel anyone here could really relate to who I was as a young black man attempting to be as successful as I could. I tell people all the time the University of Iowa tricked me to come here because I came here with many minority students, but my first day of class, I seen no one that looked like me. My faith in God is what kept my sanity because daily I struggled. There were numerous times where I wanted to just pack my bags and go back home, but I kept pressing on because I knew that one day I would realize why God placed me here in Iowa City. My first job out of college, I loved doing the work that I did, but I still didn't feel as if that's why God placed me here. I continued searching for a position to where I could help change lives of people who I could relate to, but I couldn't find those people. And when I say relate to, I am not just talking about people of color. I'm talking about people who have come to Iowa City to better themselves. People who have come here to find some type of joy, some type of peace, some type of love, some type of hope. People who have come here to find better jobs, a better education system for their children, or just a better neighborhood to where they didn't have to worry about the high crime rates in which we have to do in the city of Chicago. But one thing I didn't know was that I would face racial discrimination. When I was blessed with the opportunity to start my own nonprofit, the Dream Center, I finally realized why I was still here in Iowa City. Daily, I encounter so many people who face racism and discrimination as I did when I first got here. Daily, I encounter so many people with no hope, no joy, no peace. Daily, I encounter people who are driven out of our own communities because either their skin color or how expensive it is to survive here. So I have learned to survive here, you have to find a way to fit in. But for many, there is no fitting in because of their physical appearance. So that takes me to the current state we are in America. To constantly lose people of colors, specifically black people, to gun violence because of the color of their skin and because of the perception that one has of us. As we look around in this crowd tonight, I see many people who are all different in one way or another. But I truly believe we as a community can come together to find ways to unite, to bring more awareness and put an end to racial profiling, and to find a way to make all people feel as if they belong, no matter their skin color or no matter how much money they make. Racism nor discrimination has no place here. We can no longer turn our heads when there's issues that are blatantly in our faces. I have learned as a black man, physical appearance will easily make or break you if you allow it to. So I no longer wear urban clothes because it's looked down upon in our society. So I consistently wear this shirt and tie, even when I don't have to. But today, I will no longer hide behind this shirt and tie. So as I close, I ask that you will make this same pledge I have made. I believe that every person has worth as an individual. I believe that every person is entitled to dignity and respect, regardless of race or color. I believe that every thought and every act of racial prejudice is harmful. If it is my thought or act, then it is harmful to me as well as it is to others. Therefore, from this day forward, I would strive daily to eliminate racial prejudice from my thoughts and actions. I would discourage racial prejudice by others at every opportunity. I would treat all people with dignity and respect, and I would strive daily to honor this pledge, knowing that the world would be a better place because of my effort. Thank you.
One of our writers, LT the City, submitted 2 poems tonight, and we weren't sure we were going to have time for both of them, but we'd like to invite him back up here to do Before the Pain. And that's because it's a magnificent piece, and we want to give you that space. You bet.
I got your back. Yeah, I wasn't sure I was going to be back up here, so do my best on this one. Like she said, this one's called Before the Pain. Before the pain, there was hope, and something once you could cope. Before they ignored the letters you wrote, before the guilt, before the greed, before people bled without a reason to be, before the baby came to be, before the words rest in peace. See, before you can be so sure, before they corrupted something so pure, before the sickness that you endure, there was love, the long lost cure. My bad. Thank you. Thank you.
Gary Klein lives in Iowa City with his wife Betsy, their dog Baby, and cat Duncan. He is also the director of career coaching at the University of Iowa's Pomerantz Career Center.
Well, before I read this very short essay I wrote, I just want to say that privilege denies you real life education sometimes. It's that privilege is that thing that doesn't take you to certain parts of town because you're told don't go there because your privilege tells you so. What I hope I'm reading tonight is a product of what I've learned from jumping my education up a notch. This is called Change Within Reach. In 2014, I participated in a community outpouring to show opposition to the oppression of people of color that occurs every day in our community, Iowa City. Hearing the stories of police attention that young people experienced was eye-opening to me. It was hard to believe that some of the same things that created sunset towns in our fair state still occurred. The shootings in Ferguson and the over 400 other places in the U.S. remind us that all people do bad things, and people who lack understanding of others are more likely to exercise poor judgment. In an effort to make change happen, at the end of the rally I was at, we went up to people we did not know and we introduced ourselves. There's power in an introduction. Later that year, a local film festival showed Arab American, the story of a son of Iraqi immigrants' experiences after 9/11 when he was severely beaten in Fairfield, Iowa, because he was seen as a terrorist. You can add stories of bullying over sexuality and other causes of our inhumanity toward each other, but it doesn't change this overarching concern. We are struggling to keep our shared humanity together. In each case of violence, whether through policing or willful ignorance, we are signaling to the next generation that there are people who count more or less than others, and you do not have to concern yourself about changing that picture because it is and it always will be. However, I truly believe that people of goodwill see through the veil of prejudice and bigotry, understanding that keeping us at odds with one another serves a divisive purpose, and we genuinely want to tear down the wall of deception that perpetuates this false narrative. And I saw it. I saw it in that crowd of 120 people here in Iowa City, and later in those film goers. We have a way to go to tap into the spirit root of our shared humanity, because not all people are willing to let their guard down or have been injured and cannot forgive. But we can change the narrative by our example. Our example. Because I think every generation is a little bit better than the last. And we must constantly educate and challenge ourselves to do and be a little better. So what about me? Who am I? I'm an unrepentant peacenik. I always have been, I'm always going to be. But peace is not the absence of violence. It is the presence of understanding, tolerance, and ultimately, acceptance of each other, differences and all. We have no predisposed reason to war with each other. I took the challenge that was thrown down at that rally to heart. And I introduced myself to people I don't know. Hopefully by my action, I let them know, whatever their skin color, their religion, their sexual orientation, or even their political affiliation, that they matter to me. So our humanity may be tattered, but it is not beyond our repair. We are the catalyst of change, and we cannot be idle in our shared mission. Thank you for listening.
Our second to last poem is called This Field. It was written by an amazing woman who is Brazilian, Lebanese, and Italian named Badia. She couldn't be here this evening, sends you all her love, and we're actually having a guest reader for this one as well. Allison, you'll have to remind me of your last name. Roberts. Allison Roberts is a poet and a friend of Sally Ostergaard's, and she's going to come up this evening and read Badia's poem, This Field.
Hi. Fadra Khalil is a young writer from Iowa. She usually spends her time reading books, doing taekwondo, sewing, or making bad science puns. She has been writing for as long as she can remember, whether it was poetry in a battered notebook or typing up a final draft of a short story. This field. In the field, a flower grows. Only centimeters away, more flowers thrive. Seeing it, understanding sweeps in. We are all different, as individual as they come. But if you were to dare a glance at the field of flowers that is us, we may appear to be a blur, a giant painting of colors, with indigo and scarlet, with indigo and scarlet colors alike, each color being so important that removing one hue would cause the entire meadow to turn drab. We all live on the same earth, all grown from the same soil. Such diversity flourishes, such harmony achieved in this field of flowers that we call home. Cheers.
Cheers might have just been in the email. Thank you so much, Allison. That was very special. All right, we come to the end of our evening, and we're going to have a very special moment. I'm going to take the microphone to someone in the audience, and then I'm going to read a part up here. Just one moment, please. You can have this one. So a bit of background. Sultana grew up in a small town in Afghanistan called Kandahar. And normally we would have her come up and join us on stage, but this has been filmed for television this evening, and we'd like to keep her identity private for reasons you'll hear within the piece. This is a spoken word piece that has 2 people in it, and the second person is named Emily Roberts, and she's actually was stuck in traffic outside of Chicago and probably will arrive in about 15 minutes, so she sends her best. Emily is the founder of a company called Western Wise that teaches students from around the world English, and she especially focuses on working with students from China, around Asia, and even the Middle East. And she and Sultana met online in a kind of language dialogue forum. I'll be reading the part of Emily, and Sultana will be reading her piece. This is Sultana's story. Around the world, girls are banned from becoming astronauts in the spaceship of education. When my friend Sultana was 4, the Taliban forbade the women in Kandahar, Afghanistan, from leaving their homes, trapping her, her sisters, and her mother inside the 4 walls of their compound.
Even as the Taliban lost power, we remained jailed and veiled, hidden from the world, in a place that believes the Shuzudaya Kor Diya Kor, a woman's place in the house or in the grave.
When Sultana was 11, strangers came to her door and threatened to burn her face with acid if she continued to go to school.
At 13-year-old, I decided I would not let my mind be confined by the walls of my house, by the burqa that brand me as a woman, so I traveled across pages and through time. With Socrates, I explored my ignorance. With Einstein, I learned relativity. With Maya Angelou, I emphasized that I too know why the catbird sings. And they mocked me for picking up a pencil, for wanting to become a physicist, for solving calculus problems, just because I am a woman.
These not so small steps for Sultana are giant leaps for womankind. One of her brothers would aid her with pencils and paper, while another would ask her, "Why do you bother finding X and Y's? You will be nothing if you cannot cook and clean." But her dreams were stronger than the gravity pulling her back to the kitchen. She built a rocket.
Carefully constructed by mathematics books and massive online classes, philosophy codes, and physics theory, each page read and problem solved, preparing me for blast off.
But at 19 years old, she was barred from attending a U.S. university because she had no proof of her qualifications. In our nation, built on formal education, they asked only one question: does she have a transcript, and what are her scores? I'll tell you her scores. Her scores are women's oppressors, 0. Sultana, 1. Taliban, 0. Sultana, 2. Patriarchal society, 0. Sultana, 3.
I could not give up on my dream to go to college, but there was no testing center in Afghanistan. Pakistan had them, but I had no way to get there.
Her only potential ride to Pakistan was 2 months before the test date. She took it and stayed in Karachi for 60 days waiting for her chance.
Once I had my scores, we realized it was only the beginning.
She still needed a visa and college acceptance and, of course, tuition. She applied for a visa, but it was rejected.
One of my favorite books on physics was written by a man named Lawrence Krauss. We took a chance and contacted him, and then we met through internet. He couldn't believe I have taught myself physics. I couldn't believe a famous scientist was talking to me. He connected us to Nicholas Kristof from New York Times, who wrote an article about me. My student visa was rejected again, but Kristof told me about a humanitarian